Welcome to Wet and Wild. This is the podcast where we talk about the wild, wonderful, and downright ridiculous parts of marriage and family life. We are the Smiths, a married couple who's surviving love, kids, and each other. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
On today's episode, we are going to be talking about intensive parenting and the pros and cons to it and what we feel.
We're just going to see if the extra effort is helping our kids or if we're just burning ourselves out, or for other parents who may be doing it as well, if you're burning yourself out.
Yeah, I did. This is a new concept to me that James brought to my attention, and so I would agree with that.
I mean, it's just like between projects or extracurricular activities or anything, you're just, as parents, you're always trying to make sure you're not screwing up your child's future.
So you do what you feel like is best for them?
Well, it's just a lot, and today we're just going to ask ourselves, do we really need to do all of this?
Yeah, I think one thing that I think is similar to intensive parenting, but not necessarily the same, is the term that's been coined helicopter parent. And you, at least my understanding of a helicopter parent is where you like micromanage and you oversee everything, and you want to be in it with your kids.
Yeah, that would be a good definition. You're micromanaging every aspect of their life. Whereas intensive parenting is more of a style that involves investing your time, money, energy into the children.
Yeah.
So it's saying that your child's needs comes before your own needs.
Can you think about a time when you've intensive parented and you felt like you shouldn't have?
I mean, I'm sure I could if I really put some deep thought into it. I'm sure we'll get to some later as they come up. But I mean, I'm sure it happens. But this is more focused on like parents that constantly do it. Like you have to have that healthy balance between your own needs and your children's needs.
Well, and I think that's something that parents struggle with, and at least I myself as a mother struggle with, because there's like a reality of mom guilt and like having to balance
Okay, then
time and
let me ask you, when's the last time that you felt like you were doing too much as a parent? Like one of those where you're like, why am I staying up until midnight making cupcakes? Not saying that you ever stayed up till midnight making cupcakes, but that's just an example.
I mean, I can give examples as little like financial examples, and this is the one that like pops into my brain is the book fair. And like the kids are the girls recently experienced their first book fair at school, and I came home and they had the flyers, and they don't know what a book fair is. They've never been a part of a book fair, and I looked at you and I said, these books are mad expensive and I'm not sending any money for them to do the book fair. And so in that moment, I chose not to figure out how to set up the e-wallet. I chose not to invest my time in figuring out how to make sure they had the right money to do what they need to. But then at the end of the day, they came back after they went to the book fair and didn't get to purchase anything, really upset and like not understanding that the book fair isn't as cost effective. And I felt really guilty because I was like, wow, I think I just damaged their first experience of a book fair because I didn't send them with any money. And in that moment, I chose like what I thought was the right decision. And vice versa, I could have then said, I'm going to put $100 in their book fair account, and I'm going to make sure that they can buy any book that they want to, right?
I mean, that's a lot of money for a 4-year-old book fair.
Yeah, but like, here's where I ended up with this is like, how do you know when to stop and when, like, they're 4 years old, right?
Well, so here's the thing. So why do you think you felt pressure to do it?
Because I wanted my kids to have the same experience as other kids that were in their classroom. Well, I didn't actually think about that, but then when I felt bad about it, that's what I thought.
Well, and did you think that would be helpful or hurtful at the time?
Well, when I first made the decision, no. But after, when they came home and they were really upset about it, I was like, well, fuck, I fucked up. Like I've damaged them. I felt bad. I was gonna offer to go take them to the store to buy them some books because I felt so bad that they did not get to experience what they, again, they're 4 years old, but think about in their ideal.
So I know that you said that this is the first time you've heard about intensive parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it has been a thing for
a very long time.
Yeah, since like the 90s. It wasn't called intensive parenting, and it's not the same as a helicopter parent, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
But it's initially was like a 90s thing, and it was called intensive mothering. But I mean, obviously over the years, there's more than just a mom who's a parent, and both parents, mom and dad, will go through this phase.
Well, part of intensive parenting is constantly feeling the need to entertain children. And I feel like that's like a very normal battle to fight, to have to deal with because of social media and just following people on Instagram and people posting highlight reels of their life, and it always looks so great. And then you want to also do the same thing with your kids.
I mean, it's about being super hands-on. Like
Yeah.
intensive parenting is just about being super hands-on and just deeply involved in every aspect of your child's life. So if you think about it, it's like you said, it's constantly having to entertain them. You can still micromanage school projects if they're doing school projects. Like you are in control of their life. You're overscheduling their lives, and then basically just you're living for your kids 24/7.
Which that in my opinion can't be good for yourself if you're in a marriage, your marriage.
I mean,
And then like ultimately I think your relationship with your kids.
I mean, not just your kids, it's going to be with the spouse as well, because you're overworking yourself for the sake of your kids. I mean, that's not healthy long term for you.
Or
well, I'm not saying you. I'm saying you as like
yeah.
general, not you.
Or the children for that matter. Like in my own opinion, I don't feel like that is healthy for. But how would you set up like you've got to figure out how to set up boundaries for yourself.
I mean, so from the outside looking in, I guess it sounds good because like who doesn't want to be there for their kids? Because that's what it sounds like, right? Like, no, I'm there for them all the time. I'm there 24/7. So I mean, if you're looking at it like that, it sounds good because you're like, I am there for my kids whenever they need me. But I mean, reality, I mean, this is just a parenting style that can lead to some issues for both.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I think there's, with any parenting style, there's the pros and the cons, because on the flip side of that, you're going to get people that would be like, "Ugh, they're never with their children," or, "Oh, they don't do this," and they'll scoff at everything.
Yeah, I mean, and think of it this way. Now I'm talking to you. All right, you ready? Like, how many times have you or me, how many times have we stepped in to fix something for our kids instead of letting them figure it out?
On the daily.
Like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like, and I tell you all the time, hey, let them figure it out. I just let them figure it. That's my parenting style. Like, yeah, sometimes I do step in if I believe that this is well beyond their grasp. But for the most part, if they get into anything, I'm like, figure it out.
You step in when you feel frustrated or overwhelmed or like you're annoyed by what is happening.
No, because I get annoyed because I might think it's an easy task.
Again, though, but that's when you tend to step in and like be more directive and more.
Because here's an example, like Roman doing the dishes and putting stuff away. He's like, where does this go? Like, kid, you've done the dishes 100 times. Figure it out. That is what annoys me. Like, figure it out. How many times has he put away the dishes and he's still asking, where does this go?
I mean, very often.
That's the part.
But that's not necessarily intensive parenting. Like, I feel like
the intensive parenting part would be me every time he asks, I'm solving it for him. He's like, hey, where does this go? And I'm like, oh, here, I'll show you. No, I've shown him before. So it's something that now I expect, not for me to give the answer every time.
Is the hope that when you don't, and I'm asking this knowing the answer, but like...
And just let me say that the example I'm giving isn't like a big example.
No, but
it's still, I'm just relating that to this situation.
But I even I'll use an example of even something that happens like that is school related, or like, kids don't turn in their homework, or they forgot something in their backpack, rushing to go and take the thing to them to school to make sure that they have the item. Or I think once in a while is okay, but to do it every single time is like rushing to save them, right?
We've had examples of that all the time too, when the kids, they say they forgot something and they need it for their practice.
And yeah, you're like, I'm not taking it.
Yeah. Like Phoenix, football practice. I forgot my shoes. He wore, I think, Crocs, but they needed tennis shoes. I was like, sucks, bro. Like, I'm not helping you. Like, this is part of responsibility.
Yeah, because I think at a certain age, if you don't allow kids to flounder, then they don't build the skill set that they need ultimately in different challenges in their lives.
I would build a social challenge, because if you're not letting them fail, they're going to think as they're growing up that they're entitled all the time. Like, oh, it's not going my way, so I'm going to have a bad mood about this because they're not used to it.
Well, I don't even know if entitled's the right word, but like also they're going to have expectations that somebody is always going to come and do something.
Yeah, someone's going to fix the problem for them.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if I mess up, someone's going to make it better for me. Like, there's no consequences to follow.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think, how do you have conversations with kids to make them understand that? Because I think in a kid's mind, sometimes it's like, well, you're just being mean, and you have to like balance the idea of like having like, hey, I'm not bringing this to you. You should have been responsible.
Yeah, I mean, that is my parenting style.
That's how that has to work.
And I tell them all the time, like, you guys, I'm not teaching you to do it for you. Like, I'm trying to make you more responsible so you can take care of yourself.
And be more independent.
Yeah, because a parent's not always going to be around. Are you going to constantly rely on a parent to do it for you?
I mean, no, but also as a parent, you're going to want to be there when your kids are. I think like ultimately, if push comes to shove and something were to really happen, most parents would drop anything to do something for their kid, right? And so like ultimately, although your parenting style might not be intensive parenting,
so this is why
they have to realize that you're still going to.
This is why I was saying earlier that there's times that I will have this parenting style, and then there's times that won't. It definitely depends on the situation. But this intensive parenting is those parents that do this 24/7.
Or more than 50% of the time.
Yeah. This is the one who wants to lead their kid the whole way.
There's also pros to this, though, and being able to develop stronger bonds with your kids, according to some research.
Yeah, I mean, if you're super involved with your kids, that they know that you're going to be there for them, it's definitely going to strengthen the bond. And I mean, it's great for teaching like emotional awareness and how to handle your emotions or navigate tricky situations. Like, it can be a learning experience depending, if I'm doing this to teach rather than doing this to fix.
Yeah. I do think that there is a world. I think it's interesting that this concept is brought up because I think in the world of social media that we live in right now, intensive parenting can look in a variety of different ways. And for a lot of us in this current moment, especially that are our age, could be like, I'm watching TikTok reels, and I'm guilty of this, of like, ooh, this looks really cool. And it looks like their kids are having a lot of fun. So I'm going to try to recreate this experience in my own house. And if I can't actually do it or manage it, I've become a failure.
Yeah.
And I think that's, at least from what I've seen an uptick in recently, is this idea of like perfectionism and like wanting to be the perfect parent. And but a lot of that is illuminated through social media.
So, I mean, we can just flip the side, talk about how intensive parenting can actually backfire in some pretty big ways too. And we can talk about how it affects the children, like the micromanaging part.
I mean, if you're micromanaging kids' lives.
Well, it's like I said earlier, they just don't know how to handle failure or problem solve on their own, which I feel like that's a big part of learning life skills.
I also think when they're really little, I think one thing that I didn't realize, but like constantly having activities for them to do, like kids need to learn how to play by themselves and like entertain themselves. In at least like, especially when they're little, you feel like you have to be doing a lot for them instead of allowing them to like discover the world by themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't think that, I think it's easy to say like, oh, my kid's only 6 months old and I don't do intensive parenting. But if you're actually like, okay, I'm going to read them this book, and then I'm going to put this black and white colored photo in front of them, and then I'm going to put them on tummy time or whatever it may be. You're like, you're not allowing them to discover things for themselves. That is an aspect of like micromanaging their.
Yeah, but you're talking about a 9-month-old. They're not doing anything on their own regardless.
I mean, but that's a real thing. That's a real thing from a mom perspective, is like you feel guilty that your kid is kind of just sitting there like in their swing. You're like, oh, I feel like I got to be entertaining them. Maybe you don't feel that as a dad, but I definitely felt that as a mom.
I feel like at 9 months old, you should be entertaining. You should be socializing with your child.
Obviously not. You don't.
9-month-old, you do want to helicopter. You do want to intensive parent. You want to. If you're not controlling your 9-month-old 24/7, then you're not a. What are you? You're not a parent. Not parenting. Who's leaving a 9-year-old unattended to be like, yeah, figure it out, kid. Sorry, that's his life. I'm like, I'm sitting here talking about the girls and the boys. Like,
No, I'm just saying.
Could you imagine babysitting a newborn and being like, yep, I don't know how you're going to eat unless you can do it yourself because I got things to do.
I'm not thinking about that. But...
I was talking about just how the negatives of this, the you said it, perfectionism and anxiety in the children. Like it's going to lead to the children being anxious all the time when something bad comes up, when something negative pops off, or they're wanting to be perfect all the time to avoid something bad.
Well, I'm thinking about think about I think an example of this could be like getting involved in kids' sports activities, and like imagine if you're constantly like talking to the coach because you think they're yelling at your kid or something like that, or they're disciplining your kid, and then now every time the kid does something incorrectly, they're gonna be like, oh yikes, here comes my mom.
I mean, it's going to lead to them needing high expectations. They're always going to try to reach for high expectations. And that isn't always a bad thing. Like you always want to set goals and reach expectations, higher expectations. But I feel like at a young age for a child, you don't want to make it unrealistic. Like Roman swim meet.
Yeah.
We just went to my oldest son's swim meet Saturday, and he was really concerned. I don't know, because I'm super competitive.
Our whole family is very competitive.
So like I always want to win. But his concern was that he didn't think he was going to win, and he didn't want to win because he didn't think he was going to be that good.
He was nervous too.
Yeah. And I just had to tell him, like, look, it's not about if you're winning. Just beat yourself. Like, do your best, basically. Like, you know what you're capable of, and just try to exceed that.
But don't you think some of this is put on to kids because of society and not necessarily parents?
100%.
Yeah. I was going to be like, it's like, nowhere in there did we be like, you have to win.
No, I mean, I do.
Well, so then there's your fault. Because you caused him to have some anxiety. He was so nervous. Yeah. He didn't want to go out there. He was like, I can't do this. And we're like, yes, you can. You're going to be fine.
But then I had to turn on my parent mode and say, look, it's not about coming in first. It's not about coming in last. It's about improving. Like improve for yourself, not for anyone else. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for Domo. Do it for you. And what did he do? He improved 4 seconds and got paid for it. That's really was the
yeah, let's talk about paying kids for things. That's also
that was the real motivator. Is I told him I'd pay, and he did it, so I had to pay up. But I mean, honestly, I feel like I did not put that pressure on him to, hey, you have to be first. Felt like, I don't know, I haven't asked him, but felt like that was probably more relaxing to hear, to say, hey, I'm not expecting you to do this. I'm just expecting you to be, compete with yourself. Do the best that you can do.
Well, I think also part of that is having conversations with kids about expectations and, again, rationale, and why we talked about this a little bit earlier about saying like why you're not going to bring something to them and what you're trying to teach them. And upholding those expectations, I think, only provides clarity to kids.
Yeah. And
I think the other thing that this could cause and like is just a overstepping of boundaries with other people that are involved in your kid's life that aren't outside of your family unit, like teachers, coaches, band directors, etc. As somebody who works with lots of parents, is both pros and cons to parents who are very actively involved, and then there's also times where you have frustrating conversations with parents who are actively involved.
Well, before you get to that, you mentioned like social media being a thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there is something like a statistic saying like 73%, I believe, of parents that feel pressure from what they see online. Like that's how many. I think that's correct.
That's how many parents feel like pressure from online parenting ideals. Yeah.
Like from what they see online, 73% of parents feel pressured to, I guess, compete with that.
Well, that's because people only post their highlight reels and only post the great things. Like no one posts their kid freaking shitting all over their bathroom floor and you having it it up, like
it's those Pinterest perfect parenting.
Yes. Like that's not reality. That also makes me super upset because I'm like, yo, I'm sticking my hand full of shit water here and y'all are over here posting professional photos and like I can't even get a birthday up and running without being a hot mess, It's
the picture perfect thing. Meanwhile, we're trying to get our kids not to eat crayons and
yeah, like we're bribing them with money to eat their dinner. Like, here, eat your dinner and I'll give you $1, and then there's people out here that are just like what if my kid's eating gourmet food? And I'm like, well, that's
Is there something that made you feel inadequate about from social media?
I think the one thing that like really gets me is I'll see a bunch of like kids that do or parents that do toddler learning journals, and I'm like, well, shit, I'm not doing enough at home, you know? Like all these parents are out here creating these learning journals, and their kids are learning how to spell on their own. And then I'm like even thinking further, like, man, I got one kid that can write all their numbers, and I got one kid that can't even tell me the letters. Like, so I'm out here in a total failure, not doing some of these things that I need to be doing. But then it comes down to like, okay, am I going to spend my 2 days off a week relaxing and doing what's good for my own mental health, or, you know, busting my butt trying to make a toddler journal that I have 500 TikTok videos saved of that I have never done?
You're overstepping. Have you gotten into a fight, or not a fight, but an argument with one of their teachers yet?
Yes. Oh. It wasn't the teacher. Remember, it was the attendance lady because we're on parole.
No, you drop the kids off. You and this we thing. I have nothing to do with dropping these kids off at school. They go to work when you guys go to school like side by side, but somehow they're always late. You're on time.
Okay, here's the thing.
But I'm saying you don't do that in front of the kids.
Did I do this in front of the kids? No.
Yeah.
I did not. Was I like super rude about it? No, but I actually did it via email, and I was like, please tell me and send me this. And I was like super direct and very like in their face about it. But I also knew that the lady was wrong. I think there's like a level of, and I know what I'm talking about. So like, I think there's a level of like,
but it's not about that.
It doesn't. I think there is though.
Don't be that person.
I'm not going to be that person.
I know. So I'm going to tell you about yourself. You're being that was that person.
Well, here's the thing, though. When you're threatening to kick me out of a school because my kids are late and you're not implementing the correct policy. Okay, I get it. I shouldn't be that parent. But here's the thing, is I'm all about standing up for people who might be, you know, being mistreated. And in my brain, I immediately went to like, well, I know what's happening here, and I know the attendance policies, and I know what's supposed to be going on. So like ultimately, if my kids end up getting kicked out, I have the resources to be able to fight it. But then I'm thinking in my brain, what about other parents who actually don't know that this isn't the case? And they're getting scared and intimidated because these people are yelling at them because they're tardy. I don't know. I haven't really experienced it. That's the only thing I've really experienced. The only thing I can also think about is the girls in softball and me yelling at them from the sidelines. But you know, I just think I want to be a softball coach, so I'm trying to coach them.
If anything, I was happy when Phoenix is playing football for school. I'm like, man, that finally someone's going to yell at him for discipline.
I do think like you and I
wrestling.
I do think that you and I played sports up until high school and through high school, and I do think like people who grow up playing sports, at least for us, have different experiences and value and like want that for kids, like versus like
it's different though, because like Phoenix playing flag football.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
Nothing near regular football.
That was
okay. Not a similar experience to what football is actually like.
I might get some hate for it, but I am not a participation trophy parent. I do not agree with that, because again, that would go with that intensive parenting. I believe that the kids should fail and not be praised for failing, I guess.
I would probably be somewhat in that same boat, because you also don't want to piss parents off, you know? Every parent wants their kid to play.
No.
Well, not you, but
if you're
others.
Not good, don't play.
But that's not that's your own perspective. That's not necessarily other people's perspective.
I'm not gonna say put my son in, even though I know he's trash, so we can lose this game. No. Let him get good. Like if Ava and Sophie suck, like take them out of the game. What are we doing? They are bad. That is my style.
Which is not intensive parenting, because intensive parenting would be like going up to the coach and being.
They couldn't have me as their coach, because if they were bad, they're getting benched. You're not getting no coach's child treatment. That's not how that's going to work. I want to win. That's why I said I'm super competitive. I want to win. If you are not playing good, you can find yourself on the bench. So anyways, what?
I think one thing I think I'm taking out of this conversation is that I do think that in order for your parenting style to work for your needs, I think a couple things have to be true. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but like, I think one, although prioritization of your kids and their and their well-being and bringing them up and raising them is a priority, you also have to simultaneously prioritize your own mental health and well-being.
So my question to you then is, why is this happening? Like, why do so many parents feel they need to parent this way?
I think a lot of them,
I have my reason.
I think it has to do in part to perfectionism, maybe how they were, they grew up, and whether they want to replicate or not replicate parenting styles that they've experienced in the past, I think could be a reason.
Have you ever had this parenting style, like in any part of your life, like growing up? Have you witnessed it? Students in school, anything?
Oh, yeah.
You've witnessed this, where they just want to control their child 24/7.
Yeah. And I have. And sometimes, again, it could be very frustrating, and sometimes it could be very helpful.
I like to stay in my lane. I don't notice other people and how they parent. I stay in my lane. But no, I think people do it because of fear.
Fear of what? Failure?
I mean, just that everything's more competitive now. So you always want your child. Everyone wants their child to be the best. Everyone thinks that their own child is the smartest, the fastest, they're the greatest kid ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you met a parent who's like, yeah, my kid's dumb? No, everyone's kid is the smartest, the best looking, the funniest. They're everything, right? We say that about our own kids.
Yeah, I mean, we say, oh my God, she's so freaking smart, like she's a genius.
Yeah, of course we're going to say that. But it's competitive. Like, you want to prove that your kid really is the smartest, really is the prettiest, really is this or that. So I feel like it's fear that if your kid isn't that,
it's a judgment on you.
Yeah, it reflects you as a parent. Like, oh, their kid can't read. Like, oh, what is their parents doing with them? Like, everyone's judging parent.
Yeah, that is.
They're not judging the kid.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that immediately go to the parents, right?
Yeah, and you want to give your child every advantage. And if you're not, then you're failing as a parent. I'm not saying that people are failing. I'm just saying I feel like that's what causes it.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with that, at least from my own perspective, because I want to, and then, I don't want to fail as a parent or feel like I failed as a parent or.
And then if they aren't, let's say like Ava isn't the smartest, then as a parent, are you not going to feel like now you're not doing everything that you can to make her smart? Like you should be able to do more then. Like, oh, she's not as smart as I thought she was. So
so let me work with her on this and try to get her to where she needs to be. Yeah.
Or let me put her in an extra class, or let me do something with her.
Yeah, to make her do.
Yeah. And that's my thought on why people do it. I feel like that's the way of the world. And again, social media.
Yeah. It plays a big role in it.
Because that Pinterest social media is like, oh, their kids like that.
Why do you keep saying Pinterest? First of all,
because you have a Pinterest.
Okay, I don't even know the last time I've opened that app. So nobody uses Pinterest anymore.
Let's say so much stuff off of Pinterest.
Instagram and TikTok is the new thing. Let's not talk about Pinterest.
What's on Instagram? I feel like Instagram is the older people.
Instagram is just like the highlights of what is happening from everybody's perspective. And some people put the shitty things on there, and some people put only great things.
Pinterest perfect sounds better than TikTok perfect or Instagram perfect. It's PP. Yeah. PP.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think a couple of things that people could do to help foster a healthier parenting styles is to continue to allow kids to be able to embrace challenges in any aspect of their life. Would you agree with that?
What?
Like, they need to allow their kids to flounder, to have problems, and
let them fail.
and let them figure it out.
Let your kid fail. I mean, don't put them in a you're gonna fail situation, but let them figure it out.
Yeah, and I think be there to support them when they do, and or talk them through it when they need help, and then celebrate them when they're able.
Use it as a teaching lesson. Like I said, you can show them, fix it for them the first time, and be like, look, this happens again, you know what to do.
Yeah.
But let them fail. Let them think about it. They might hate you for a couple days, but they'll get over it.
Or if they're 4, they'll hate you for 5 minutes, and then you'll be back to being their best friend. Don't worry.
So how do you find a balance then that's healthy for everyone?
I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask that question, because I feel like I don't have a balance in my life, and that is something I currently struggle with.
I do feel like you're an intensive parent.
Yeah, I don't have a balance. I feel like that's why I lose my shit on people, because I get so mentally overloaded and overstimulated that I cannot figure out how to balance it.
Well, I mean, one could be self-care. Have self-care be your priority.
That does help. I think I've been working out at least 2 days a week right now, and that, even if it's 15 minutes, it has helped a little bit.
What's the saying? Like, I forget this is saying, I don't know. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're drained, what are you giving to the kids?
You're giving nothing. Like, there's times where I'm like, please just, like, let's just get through the night, like I am done. Spent.
And it could be anything. You could do hobbies. We could have date nights or just a moment to breathe, including you going to get your nails done like you did when you went to go get your nails done. Like that's still self-care.
Yeah, I think it's like well, and I don't know if other people experience this, but I feel like there's seldom times where I have time alone. Like, in the span of a week, I can count on two hands how many hours I have alone outside of work. Like, I'm never by myself. And so I feel like a part of figuring out self-care is also just figuring out, like, when can I take 20 minutes by myself,
So you want to know what I do?
Besides, that's not the shower, because that is not self-care.
You want to know something helpful for me?
What?
It's good enough parenting.
Like, I did good enough. We're all right. We're surviving.
Yeah, good enough parenting. Like, not about being perfect. Just like, I don't have to control everything. I just have to be present. That's good enough. Like, I am here.
I'm here at this given moment.
Yeah, like we can use the swimming, for instance. Like, I was there. I was supportive. That's good enough. That's all you need to. Everything else you got to figure out. I don't think it was overdone at all. I was there. I was present. I didn't go out of my way to be like, hey, let me go find Roman. No, he found us. And then I was like, hey, supportive. You can do it. Just beat yourself. That's it.
I think it's easier in those times. I think where it becomes more challenge is where you get in the monotony of the day-to-day routine, and you are trying to strive for perfectionism there. And so I think like that's something we still have to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like if you're feeling the pressure to do it all, just remember that you're already doing enough.
And remember that there's others that are also fucking up, aka us. You're not alone.
Because, I mean, regardless of how old your kids are, they could be grown-ass kids or babies. They don't need perfection. They need a parent at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and they need to see you mess up, and they need to see you, love them. And they need to also, I have to remind myself, they also need to see your emotions. I think our dog needs to go outside. So I think that's our cue to wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Wed and Wild. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcast. And please make sure to follow us on Wed and Wild Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I should know this by now. But let's have a great week, everybody, and we will see you guys next week.